Oh my god. Nice, nice.
Finish. Yeah, shock away. Wait, what? Did he pick up his body and shock away?
No. On me. By the hotel, in the pool. Cracked. He's rezzing in the water. That's them. Or one of them. He's shooting me with his pinky toe, bro.
He shocks again. He gave me a little mat refresh.
Oh, he's right here.
152
on him. I don't care. Push on him.
Yeah.
White. Boo! I have a million shockwaves. How many shocks is this? Is he the fucking shockwave factory? Why does he keep finding more?
No, literally.
He's right here. 1 HP again. Oh, like another one. Remove all these fucking shockwaves, bro. You don't need this many in the game. I don't care if it's reload. This is ridiculous.
God, you can't make this shit up.
70 on cracked. How does he have infinite shield? What is going on, guys? My name is 4G. So today I wanted to make a video talking about turbo build in Fortnite OG. So a lot of people want it to be exactly like the original OG mode. They want it to be exactly like it was. I do as well, to be completely honest. Back in the day when nobody could build, not to the extent where everyone was completely bad, because that would mean that I was bad, because I was not very good in Chapter 1, Season 1. It looked, I could not aim. I could not aim at all, because that was right around the time I started playing keyboard and mouse for the first time. But anyways, let's get into what turbo build is. If you're not familiar with the idea of it, alright? Turbo build is a feature that they added in Chapter 1 Season 3, the very first version of that season. They added it so that when you go to place builds, all you have to do is hold down your mouse button, hold down the trigger on your controller, whatever it is. You just have to hold it down and it will automatically place build. Later on in Chapter 1, I'm not exactly sure when, they actually decreased the delay between when you could place these builds, and that actually allowed us to build in crazy ways like we can today. Well, I say we. There's a lot of people who still have been playing Fortnite since day one and still cannot do 90s. Like, come on, man. You've had 7 years. You know, I'm calling you out now. All right, I'm calling you out. You've had 7 years. Anyways, but in all seriousness, turbo build was an amazing feature. It was a great addition, but of course it had the downsides that would probably have happened anyways if we're being completely real, okay? So here's the thing. Turbo build is this bad guy in the community to people who don't like anybody building, really. They want it to be a mode where you can still build. You can still build a bit like it was back in the day, but not to the extent of zero build, where zero build is just entirely no builds whatsoever and you can't defend yourself at all. They want something in between, and honestly, I can see that. I personally would like to see that as well if it's possible. I don't know how it's possible. Well, I got some ideas, but I'm not exactly sure if they would work. I'm sure there's some downsides. We'll get into that in a second. But turbo build is not the bad guy that you really think it is. I'm going to be completely real. And I used to think the same thing. I used to think turbo build was this thing. If they completely disabled it for an OG mode or whatever, it would completely change up the game. Nobody would be able to build again. It would be exactly like it was back in the day. But I'm just going to say this right now, I don't think that's how it would have played out. One day, after some Googling, you know, and after seeing this video right here, this video really proved to me that it would change nothing. This is a video of someone going through on a private server, going back to Chapter 1 Season 1, the actual version of that, where there was absolutely zero turbo build whatsoever, and just cranking, man, absolutely destroying those edits, okay? This is also before edit on release, so all of these quality of life features like turbo build, edit on release, you know, nowadays we have simple edit, which is kind of crazy. All these different things were not available back then, and yet if you're good enough, you're still able to do. That's what I'm saying. All this does is make the game feel worse. That's all it does at the end of the day, because people who are good at the game, at the end of the day, they will just spam click and they'll get the job done regardless. It makes no difference. But you might be saying, well, maybe there's a reduction in how many good players there are, because not everyone is going to be at that level. Yeah, but not really, because here's the thing you also got to think about. You also got to think about the fact that you're now nerfing the lesser skilled players as well, because turbo build is not just helping these players, it's also helping players who aren't as good at building, because they can build a little bit quicker still. Now, if you're not ever building and you're just playing against these kinds of people, yeah, okay, sure, it's not going to help you that much at all. So it might not actually bounce out, but overall, for the majority of people who actually do build, even if you're of lesser skill, it's just going to balance it out at the end of the day. The good players are going to adapt to the lack of turbo build, and the lesser players will, I mean, they'll adapt too, I guess, but their skill will drop a little bit. Maybe it would make it a tiny bit better because the builds wouldn't be as crazy overall, but I just don't think that it would be the solution that everyone everyone thinks it is. I really don't think so. And that's coming from someone who did originally think that that would be the solution. Because I do want a Fortnite OG mode with no crazy turbo builds where it's just feeling like ranked or anything like that, where they think that they need to put bots in the game just to keep the quote-unquote sweat levels down, okay? I just do not like the idea that we have to have bots in the game now, which they don't have to do. But, you know, regardless, they're doing it anyways. I mean, we have ranked, so it's not that big of a deal now. But even then, it means nothing to get a win in Fortnite OG when there's bots, to be completely honest. But if there was a mode like this, they could reduce the amount of bots. Well, not really, actually. They probably have to increase because of the idea that now there's even more modes and more players are split between all these different modes even more. So I don't exactly know how that would work when it comes to player count, but I do think that if they did have a mode where there was limited builds, something in between build modes and zero build, it would be great. Because back in Chapter 1, Season 7, they actually had an LTM that was kind of like this. I don't exactly remember what it was called. It's like bare bones or something like that. I don't exactly know if that's what it was called, but that's what I remember it as because it was a pretty bare bones mode. You could barely build. You had 30 mats per material slot, 30 wood, 30 brick, 30 metal. That is it. You could build to protect yourself, but other than that, it was basically zero builds. It was kind of weird. I didn't like it, to be completely honest, and that's why I don't know what the solution is truly, but I do think that's the closest we've ever gotten to that. I do think that that is better than zero build overall, because at least you could protect yourself a little bit when taking shots, which is how the game is designed, and also at least you could do things like getting up some hills, because right now the Fortnite OG mode with zero build is absolutely terrible, to be completely honest. There's so many hills that you can't get up, and the reason you can't get up them is because the map was not designed with no building in mind. There's also no mobility in Chapter 1 Season 1 other than launch pads, so it's really not a great time to play zero build. But if we had something in between, you'd get a much more authentic experience where people could still build forts and still be able to actually move around the map and maneuver around certain things like mountains. Sounds like a way better system on paper. It's just, how would you execute it? You know, how would you execute this? I don't exactly know. The only thing I can truly think of, and I'm sure it has a flaw that I'm not thinking of, is something similar to a porta-fort, but it's built into the build menu and it has a cooldown. So you can only build actual forts. It does take the materials, so you still do need materials. You can't just keep spamming them or anything like that. It's on a cooldown, so people can't just now use these forts as like the equivalent of a ramp, for an example. And instead of just using one piece, now they're using a bunch of pieces and spamming it, and it's almost like they're placing multiple pieces all at once, which I mean you do anyways, but like even more so to the point where you're building an entire fort, like building a box the entire time, and you could do 90s and stuff with that or something. I don't exactly know. I'm just thinking out loud here right now. This probably wouldn't even work. There was actually something leaked a while ago, by the way, that kind of sounds like this for simple building, so that you can just basically do that. You can throw it down and it just works. It just builds a fort immediately, which I don't know why you would need that in normal build, so I hope that's not what that's for, because come on, man, is it really that hard to build a regular 1x1 box with a pyramid on top? You really need something to do that for you. The reason I would say to do it like that is to prevent people from being able to go crazy and doing 90s and stuff like that. Doing 90s and building all sorts, you know, creative stuff, of course, right? Which is good for the regular mode, in my opinion. I like that it's a feature. I like that that's a part of the game. Don't get it wrong. I'm not someone saying that they should get rid of that in normal builds. I'm saying as a separate mode for the Fortnite OG mode, they could have something. It would be a lot more authentic because nobody was doing this stuff back in the OG days. And sure, people would always still be better. There's nothing you can do truly about that. But I think this would be a far more authentic way, and I would like to see it happen if we're being real. Some people also might say, why don't you just use porta-forts or porta-fortresses or whatever? To me, that's not the same thing. For one, it takes up an inventory slot, and two, it doesn't take any material. So if you were to use them, there's no point in harvesting. Whereas this would kind of balance it in a way, because you would still need to harvest, still need to get your materials in some way, just like you would in previous years, way back in the day, but you wouldn't be able to just get cranked on constantly. And I really do think that those really good players would probably stay out of that mode if we're being real, because unless you're trying to go for that OG authentic experience, like the really authentic experience, just doesn't make sense why you would be in that mode and not cranking in regular build modes. But anyways, that is just an idea. I don't know. I'm sure there's some flaws someone will point out in the comments, which honestly, go for it. I would like to hear anybody else's ideas. Let's do some brainstorming, I guess you could say. But what do you guys think about this? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Would love to hear what you guys have to say. If you guys enjoyed this video, a like would be greatly appreciated. If you're new here and you like videos like this, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. Yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Have a great day.